Welcome to the G.O.A.T podcast. Disclaimer: the G.O.A.T podcast is for civic entertainment informational purposes, and we're here as private tax-paying residents only. Any resemblance to actual goats, government officials, or your neighbor's lawn debates is purely coincidental. Opinions expressed are those of the speakers and do not constitute legal advice, official policy, or instructions on storming town hall with pitchforks. Listen responsibly. Democracy may cause side effects such as laughter, accountability cravings, and spontaneous fact-checking.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the G.O.A.T podcast. It's been a while since we've been in studio, but we're really looking forward to having today's podcast on May the 21st, 2026. I am your host, John Barella, one of the GOATs, along with...
world famous Matt Phillips, your other GOAT.
Thanks for joining. We have a full slate of items to go through today, but I want to start off with a really quick intro. So this feels a lot like a vindication moment for you and me and other people. We were really proven right over time about Jay McGrail's fails in the budget book, and the town starting to kind of waking up and seeing the truth that we've been right all along, right? And we took a lot of slings and arrows. And while we're not necessarily really taking a victory lap, I feel like it's important to point out that we do feel really good about where we are. We do want to acknowledge that there's a pain going on right now with town employees because of some of the failures of this past administration. And I certainly empathize and sympathize with them. I don't know how you feel about that, but I just wanted to pause.
Absolutely. And, just before delving down into that topic, the vindication part, I'd like to touch upon that is like, absolutely. We have been saying for past couple of years, at a minimum, the math is not mathing. Mm-hmm. And again, I know I've talked about this before. I'm probably sound like a broken record, but when you get a disproportionate response to seemingly straightforward and innocuous questions, there's a problem. Yep. It should be, the information we were asking for was well within the purview of our roles on the finance committee. But beyond that, it was well within the purview of being a resident and taxpayer in the town of Middleborough.
Right.
It's our money. At the end of the day, it wasn't Jay McGrail's money, wasn't Mark Germain's money, wasn't the select board's, it's the town's money. Yep. All these people, ourselves included, we're merely supposed to be stewards of that money.
Right.
And the difference is, what type of steward are you going to be? Are you going to be a good steward or are you going to be a bad steward? And I think we've seen that for the past 3.5 years, we've had bad stewards.
I agree.
And now it's culminated to the point where the chickens have come home to the roost. Yep. And now real people are being affected. Yep. Their livelihoods are at stake. There's already been some who have been let go. Yep. There's more to follow. Yep. And it's a travesty. And the reason why it's a travesty is because this could have all been avoided through prudent fiscal management.
I agree. And I think the last point I want to touch on is you and I know, as I've worked with you over the last couple of years and we've become friends, we operate on the town's best interests, with the town's best interest in mind. Always have, always will, and not for personal ones. And so that's, again, I think people have really there's been a sea change and a 180 with a lot of people in town kind of now looking at us as the guiding light or the light up on a hill that is casting the light and the truth on things that, to your point, should have been handled some time ago. So here's what we're going to talk about on today's show. We've got 7 items. The first is going to be elections. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the budget and town meetings, big item that's coming up right around the corner. We're going to talk about South Middleborough water projects that are underway, forensic audit, which is a very, very important piece of this, the town manager search. We'll have some special topics, and then we're going to have a little teaser for an upcoming special guest. So with that, I'm going to just jump right into elections, and we'll just kind of bandy it about back and forth.
Sounds good.
All right, so elections. Everybody knows those elections have come through. We've had some really good results. The town came out in force, and it was a big repudiation on the failed Germain administration, again with Mark Germain being removed as the former select board chair, and the now former town manager, Jay McGrail, who's moved on to Harwich. Not part of the election process, but those two are very closely tied together. We saw a dramatic voter increase from last year, and our candidate, Tracy Craig McGee, who we endorsed thoroughly, she won in resounding fashion. She was the largest vote getter out of the entire election. Mm-hmm. She received 1,575 votes. Mark Germain didn't even break 1,000. It was a record low for him. And I think there was some speculation that Tom White would have lost if another candidate had emerged. So clearly the town really showed its dissatisfaction with both Mark Germain and really Jay McGrail at the same time. Mm-hmm. The select board, in my opinion, is already showing better decorum and professionalism with Chair Farley in place. We do still see some grandstanding by Brian Giovannoni. And speaking of Brian Giovannoni, do you know if he ever apologized to a constituent that he had called a terrorist from the table because he needs to?
Not that I'm aware of.
Any thoughts on the election process that we just kind of went through?
Oh, I think it was awesome. And I just want to back up a little bit before that is where you touched upon kind of the sea change as it pertains to our endeavors here with the GOAT. And first off, I would probably be hesitant too if somebody came out with a podcast and was throwing out, at that point, I guess one could deem them allegations, which we did. We alleged a lot of fiscal mismanagement, which has since been proven to be correct. Mm-hmm. But I suppose I would be hesitant to jump right on that ship as well. So I understand where people are like, who are these guys?
Sure.
Like, what qualifies them to say that something's amiss in town hall,
right?
That there's fiscal mismanagement. So I completely understand that piece of it, because by and large, I think people, when you go and you cast a vote for somebody, you're essentially saying, I trust this person.
Yeah.
They're going to do what's in the town's best interest. They're going to do right by me. Mm-hmm. That's why we vote for people, mm-hmm. by and large. And I think it gave people pause where they were like, this seems completely it seems the complete opposite of what I thought of this person. This guy's a good guy, or this woman's a good woman. Like, who are they to be making these allegations against someone? But then as the receipts start coming out, the facts start coming out, wait a minute. Now these guys who I'm really giving, the stink eye to, mm-hmm. they're actually bringing facts to support these allegations, which is what we did. And it was never personal.
Right.
And quite frankly, I wish we weren't in this position. I wish I was wrong.
Yep.
This is not hey, I told you so, right. I get any sense of joy from that.
Yep.
I wish I was wrong. I wish I was completely off my rocker, and that it was just my own ignorance that I couldn't do the simple math to see that, no, everything's fine. The budget's balanced. We have more than enough revenues to cover our expenses. But it wasn't the case. So again, I get no satisfaction from this, and certainly I get no satisfaction that to balance this unbalanced budget is going to require the loss of jobs.
I agree.
So I just wanted to get that piece out of the way. But getting back to the elections, it was huge, because we went from, dare I say, the town's pariahs mm-hmm. to people kind of jumping on the bandwagon saying, wait, these guys, not to belabor the point, but these guys are onto something. Yep. And where they put their trust in us to say, this is a problem. This isn't good.
Right.
We're not talking about paper clips.
Yeah.
We're talking about vehicles. We're talking about massive payroll increases. and just unfunded positions.
Right.
Like these are major things. This isn't about like, oh well, we could have saved 5 cents a box of paper clips getting them from Staples as opposed to WB Mason. It's not the case. And just for the record, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know whose prices are better. Just using that as an example.
Clips. That's the next thing we should check out. Paper clips.
Yes. But
we have time for that, right?
But yeah, so I think we really brought a lot of light to the current dysfunction, or the not current now, but the then dysfunction in town leadership. We saw a dramatic uptick in voter turnout.
Yep.
We had, I believe in 2025, it was roughly about 4% of registered voters came out and cast a ballot.
Yep.
This year, we had over 11%, so a net increase of over 7%, pretty significant.
Yep.
And again, it's very tough to be an incumbent, no matter what race it is. There's a lot of power that being the incumbent brings.
That's right.
Just by way of name recognition.
Yep.
But the fact that Mark Germain was trounced spoke volumes.
Yep.
Spoke volumes. And despite his assertions that he can do whatever he wants, he couldn't win that election.
No.
So there was one thing he couldn't do that he wanted to do.
How much of the GOAT do you feel really helped to shed light on a lot of the facts that we had been talking about for prior to the GOAT being even launched? How much of that do you think resonated with the people, and how do you see that as having translated through those election results?
Well, I think it definitely played a pivotal and key role in this election. Number one, just by, I can't tell you how many people I've encountered that have thanked us for, wow, thank you. It's been educational. Like how the budget works, different things where I think there was, whether there was an illusion that, hey, this is quantum physics we're doing here, folks.
Right.
You're not going to be able to understand it, so don't even bother asking. And people saying, I don't know. I'm out of my depth on this. Or if it was so much where people were saying, I don't know anything about finance, so I'm gonna leave that to those who do. Mm-hmm. Well, they come to find out that it really comes down to basic math. Mm-hmm. Most people, a majority of people, can do simple math,
right?
And it's all addition and subtraction.
Yep.
There's no algebra.
Right.
There's no
calculus.
There's no calculus. It's simple addition and subtraction, and I think that really helped, where we opened people's eyes that, like, this isn't heavy lifting.
Yeah.
You can do this too.
Yeah.
And far be it from me to tell you what you need to believe. Here's the facts.
Right.
You decide. This is what we're seeing. Show me where I'm wrong.
Yep.
And I think that resonated a lot with people. I've never approached this with any airs like I'm the smartest person in the room.
Same.
And a lot of times I'm the other end of the spectrum where I'm like, hey, it very well could be my own ignorance. Make this make sense to me. Maybe I just don't know. But again, you ask seemingly innocuous and straightforward questions, and you're met with this disproportionate response. All right, now something I just merely wanted to know before, well, now I need to know.
Right.
And I think a lot of the voters felt the same way.
Yep.
They're not gonna, like, blind faith is not gonna cut it anymore.
No.
And I think that was by and large what a lot of people had, and those who are no longer in a position of authority found out the hard way that it's not going to cut it anymore. Yep. Blind faith is not the people aren't. They're not going to play by under that premise any longer.
Yeah. I want to thank people out there as well, because we've had a lot of people that did turn into supporters, who rightfully so questioned at the beginning whether or not we were on the right track. So
other goats. We've added more goats to the herd.
Yes, the herd is getting bigger. And I will also just say, so thank you personally. I know I have received many messages of thanks as well. And just before we get into the school committee, we're almost closing in on 2 million views on the GOAT, which is
insane,
incredible.
And I mean, what was we were like, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we were well under 1 million
Yeah.
views. I want to say it was like less than 2 months before the town meeting, which it was supposed to be on
Right.
April 27th. I want to say it was right, like 6 to 8 weeks prior to that. We were still under 1 million views, and you and I were like, I wonder how many followers and views we'll have. And
Yeah.
I want to say we had kind of set the optimistic benchmark of like 750,000
Right.
views by town meeting, and I forget how many followers. I forget what the numbers were, but we ended up blowing it out of the water.
Yeah, we did.
Well before, and it was like 750 came and went, and then the next thing you know, it's 1 million. It's like, holy mackerel. So that was encouraging for me, because that showed that the rounds were impacting the target.
Yep.
It was, our message was resonating with people. People were interested. They were now saying, like, I got to follow this because I want to. What else are they going to uncover?
Right.
And so yeah, it's been pretty wild. It's been a pretty wild ride. And I mean, you look at other social media platforms and pages that they have, podcasts or pages that other people have, and it's like, realistically, 1 million views and 1,000 followers, it's nothing. I mean, and just so we're clear, it's not monetized. We haven't received any money or anything like that, but it's like it's really small potatoes when you start getting into other platforms. But I think it needs to be said, we're confined to talking about topics that are only regarding Middleborough.
Right.
Like one town.
Right.
One small town in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And we've got over 1 million views, almost 2 million views now, and over 1,000 followers. That's pretty wild.
So thank you to the herd. Okay. School committee. So real quickly, there was a controversy around the group text messaging involving we go from candidates to current members. Machado, Phillips, no relation, and Mokler. I don't know much about it other than there was a text message, and it seemed like they had kind of put themselves together on a ticket, and it looked like a package deal. But we're going to kind of monitor and report on the school committee in the near future. We're kind of working our way through the municipal aspects of the budget and town meeting, but we just thought we would mention that. And then for the rest of the elections, winners included Paula Burdick on Board of Assessors, Alan Kirshner, yourself, and Nathan Demers on FinCom. Interestingly enough, John Jankowski, who was the former chair of the Finance Committee, he obtained a record amount of write-ins of 278, and we believe that is in large part due to the promotional efforts that he received from the G.O.A.T. So there's a lot of touchstone there in the election process. And then, Alan Frawley successfully made another run on the planning board. And then Judy Costa and Dawn Savory were elected to the Park Commission. So congratulations to all the winners. Just know that goats are everywhere, as we like to say. And we will be watching and we will be reporting without fear or favor for what's best for Middleborough. All right, so moving right into a big item, budget and town meeting. I'm going to rattle off a few things, and I want you to jump in after this, okay? So the budget book has been corrected. A large part of that has to do with Chief or Interim Town Manager Joe Perkins and others who have put together what we believe is a balanced budget book, and also a vastly improved version of the failed Jay McGrail budget book. And I promised some antics and barnyard, so we're going to just...
Is this the budget book you're referencing?
That's the one. And before we give the surprise to the audience, I just want you to read in the executive summary, if you could, what former town manager McGrail was speaking to into the town's record books here.
In the town manager's executive summary, he has, under fiscal year 2027 budget executive summary, the very first sentence. I'm going to repeat that in case anybody didn't hear that. The very first sentence. I am pleased to present the town manager's recommended balanced balanced budget for FY 2027.
Yeah.
Balanced budget. This turd sandwich that I've called this he absolutely said was balanced.
What do you want to do with the executive summary, Matt? What do you think of it?
That's what I think of it. That's what I think of this whole budget book. Unfortunately, this small shredder won't shred this whole thing, and I don't want to be taking up too much time and having the viewers hear a shredder echoing, in the background. So, But suffice to say, this is trash, absolute trash.
Town of Harwich, don't say we didn't forewarn you. But moving right along, at a high level, we're looking at a truly balanced budget. What we see is $112.77 million. A budget book that now includes a balance sheet, whereas that was absent before. I'm just going to read off a few points of why it's important that a good town manager includes a balance sheet in the budget book. Number one, it shows the town's true financial position. Assets, liabilities, fund balances in one place, not scattered across budget pages. 2, it reveals long-term obligations, pensions, OPEB, debt, other liabilities that don't appear in the annual operating budget. 3, exposes structural weaknesses, declining reserves, negative fund balances, or growing liabilities that a budget alone can hide. Where have we heard that before? Builds public trust. Residents can now see whether the town is solvent, stable, or sliding into risk. We've been stuck at AA bond rating for years. The former manager's town contract had a stipulation that maintained a bond rating, and he was paid handsomely for it.
Yep.
That was a Mark Germain approved contract. Yeah. Connects the budget to reality. The budget is a plan. The balance sheet is the scoreboard. Supports responsible decision making. Select board, finance committee, and voters can evaluate whether new spending or cuts are financially sustainable. Number 7, I think. Highlights liquidity and cash health. That's critical for understanding whether the town can meet obligations without short-term borrowing. Saw a lot of bonds come through and bans come through.
Yep.
Number 8, provides early warning signals. Now, if you didn't have a balance sheet, what would you not have? Early warning signals. Why would you not want to include people in if you thought early warning signals were bad? Maybe because you were doing something that you shouldn't have been doing. I don't know. Well, early warning signals, deficits, unfunded liabilities, or reserve depletion become visible before they become crises. Number 9, this aligns with best practices. GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association. That's a professional organization representing public finance officials across the United States and Canada. They're dedicated to advancing excellence in government financial management. Both the GFOA and the DLS here in Massachusetts, the Division of Local Services, emphasize presenting both budgetary and financial position data for transparency, part of the T and GO.A.T,
the last
right?
T.
And then lastly, strengthens the credibility at town meeting. And we're hearing a lot of rumblings about town meeting coming up. So voters get to see the whole picture, not just the appropriations column. That leads us into the McGrail fails of the previous version of the budget book, which officials, including myself, and I think you too, and as well as many members of the public, have publicly lambasted as junk and trash. You saw we just took care of that, at least one page of it.
Right.
I'd add that anyone who had a hand in the creation of that trash, that former version of the budget book, has some explanations that they should prepare themselves to answer at town meeting. I'm just going to repeat that. If you had a hand in that budget book, you should prepare yourself to explain at town meeting. This budget book that we now have completely is redone, and it addresses the McGrail fails. Those fails included, and we're going to keep this high level because we don't have all day. We have a lot to cover. Overstated revenues in the form of local receipts. Underreported expenses in the form of actuals versus budget book reporting. Payroll discrepancies between the Department of Revenue reporting and the old budget book, such as fiscal year 21. McGrail reported in the budget book it was $45.6 million. What was reported to the DOR was $45.3 million. In fiscal year 22, what McGrail reported in the budget book was $47.5 million. What was reported to the Department of Revenue was $45.3 million. Fiscal year 23, what McGrail reported in the budget book was $51 million. What was reported to the DOR was $48.1 million. Fiscal year 24, what McGrail reported in the budget book was $54.1 million. What was reported to the DOR was $52.2 million. Yeah. Thank you. And that led me to the pause, which I was about to get to. That was all underreported salaries by about $2 million a year for those fiscal years. And then here comes the big one. What McGrail reported in the budget book for fiscal year 25 for salaries was $57.8 million. What was reported to the Department of Revenue was $65.1 million. That's a 12.6% increase alone in one fiscal year. My question is, where did Jay McGrail, the former town manager, get the money to pay $7+ million in salaries? Overall headcount, fiscal year 22, what McGrail reported in the budget book was 1,113 positions. What was reported to the DOR was 1,206 positions. Fiscal year 23, what McGrail reported in the budget book was 1,279 positions. What was reported to the DOR was 1,284 positions. Fiscal year 24, what McGrail reported in the budget book was 1,286 positions. What was reported to the DOR was 1,003 positions. Fiscal year 25, what McGrail reported in the budget book was 1,258 positions. What was reported to the DOR was 1,335 positions. Why such massive discrepancies? We know town employees speak with the DOR. There were 7 firefighters on the payroll. There were 42 of them. There were only 35 listed in the budget book. Massive overtime issues within the fire department. The current chief, former or chief that's on administrative leave, Owen Thompson. I guess that's going to conclude at some point soon. But you can see at just a high level the discrepancies in salary and the discrepancies in headcount that McGrail reported in the budget book were wildly different and inaccurate versus the Department of Revenue reporting. We need to know how that came to be, and we need to know who was involved in that. And sometime down this list, we'll get into the forensic audit, which will cover part of that, which is one of the absolutes that we need to have done in town. I know you feel that way. I know folks on the select board feel that way. I know many people in the town that we've spoken to feel that way. And that's a hill that I know you have said, and I know I will want to die on, because we need to unravel all of the issues that led us to this point. What say you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I've heard some people that are against a forensic audit. Well, what's done is done. What's that going to prove? Like, it's just going to cost money. Like, all these, in my opinion, nonsensical arguments against the forensic audit. Mm-hmm. But the point is, number one, we've got to find out exactly how bad this is.
Yep.
We need to have a detailed accounting of the financial health of the town of Middleborough. Number one. Number two, if there was any malfeasance afoot, which I've been saying for 2 years, this makes no sense.
Yep.
I said without any proof at that point, the only thing that makes sense to me is that there's criminality. Like there's misappropriation of funds. There might even be embezzlement. I have no idea. I don't know what it looks like, but I can tell you right now, I've been saying for 2 years, I'm like, there's got to be criminality. That's the only thing that makes sense. Nothing else makes sense. So if there was, holding those people accountable, like we need to ensure that the integrity of this town is restored.
Yes.
Because based on all of this data, there was zero integrity.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in the Marines, we used to have a saying, like integrity was a big thing, you know, and it's basically doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. And we used to have a saying too, that would go along, do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. It's simple, stupid.
Yep.
Just do the right thing.
Yep.
But this here, like we need to have this so that we can understand the full scope of the rot. Because rest assured, there is rot that exists.
Yep.
Hence why people are losing their jobs.
That's right.
Why their livelihoods are at stake to right this ship. And it's disgusting. It's infuriating that it's gotten to this point. Jay's predecessor, Bob Nunes, I've heard from many people, department heads in town. When he was the town manager, he'd bring you in line by line.
Yep.
You had to give a justification for your budget.
Yep.
And it would be, you know, I see item X presents a 7% increase over last year.
Yep.
Why?
Yep.
And that department head would have to give him a solid explanation. Why is a 7% increase?
Yep.
Sometimes, okay, understood. Sometimes it'd be like, no, can't do 7%. Put it back to the level of last year, or we're doing away with it. That's unnecessary.
Yep.
Get rid of it entirely.
Yep.
He poured over each department's budgets through a painstaking process, which included the department head themselves. And he left the town in very good financial standing.
Yeah.
It took approximately 3.5 years of Jay McGrail to not only undo that, but to put us in such a precarious position that I guess the DOR may be coming and paying a visit to the town. And I think the important thing with that too is, I'm sure this question is like, why did it take this long before the DOR acted? And I think a lot of it goes to the DOR oversees, I think it was 351 towns and cities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. They're all submitting their financials roughly at the same time. So basically there's a level of trust that's bestowed upon the towns and cities that are submitting these financials that it's on the level. And so I think they're just doing a very, high level overview, making sure that everything looks good on the surface.
Yep.
It isn't until that there's something glaring that like somebody tips them off that, hey, you need to take a look at these numbers, or that through the course of their periodic audits that they do, that they discover, wait a minute, again, to use the term I've used many times before, this math ain't mathing.
Yeah.
Before they say, wait a minute, we got to look. And then they start seeing there's a pattern. And I've said this before as well, is that everyday Americans go through audits.
Yep.
Okay. Every year.
Yep.
And that's by way of the IRS.
Yep.
When you submit your tax filing.
Yep.
And one of the things, like they don't go and pour through every filing to make sure, is they make sure it's like basically with the proper form submitted. Do they have this appropriate supporting documentation? All right, looks good, process it.
Box checking.
Right. But then what they'll do is every so often they'll just take a sample and say, all right, we're going to, just for, to ensure that everything's on level, we're going to do an audit. And I know for most people, that's a phrase that they absolutely shudder at. It's like, I got to go through an audit. And I believe the IRS, they look back 7 years So now they're going over and everybody's on bated breath. Like, I hope everything was good.
Yep.
Like I use an accountant to do my taxes. So I'm like, man, I hope he did his job well. Like,
Right.
you know, but I mean, just having an audit is in and of itself, it's not an accusation of impropriety unless there's good reason where it's saying, hey, you need to take a look at this. And that's what we're saying is like, there's impropriety at the very least, at the bare minimum, a mismanagement of funds.
Yep.
At worst, criminality.
Yep.
So who knows? It might be the former, it might be the latter, it might be somewhere in between, a little bit of both. But suffice to say, based on this data,
Yep.
it's not good. It's not good, and we need to have a forensic audit.
I agree.
And just with that really quick,
Yeah.
supposedly we had an audit done last year.
Yeah.
11 plus months ago, we still have yet to receive that audit report. And that
Yep.
wasn't a forensic audit.
Yep.
That was a regular
Standard audit.
standard, what I recall being told, annual audit.
Yep.
Why 11 plus months later do we still not have that audit report?
Yep.
Very, very concerned. When it takes about 3 to 4 months on average
Yep.
for a firm to conduct an audit of a municipality of this size,
Yep.
should be like 3 to 4 months. We're 11 plus months out and still no audit report.
On that topic too, before I jump into the town meeting piece, so for folks that are out there that are wondering about the natural progression of audits, the town used to use an audit firm which was widely lauded as very good, and I do believe they are very good. Haig and Sahady. They are a small, I'd call them a boutique firm. They work with municipalities across the Commonwealth for their municipal audits. Former town manager McGrail was out there publicly stating how great they were and that they did a great job. There was no reason on the surface to change auditing firms. And then the auditing firms changed. McGrail had sent Haig and Sahady an RFP declination later stating that because Haig and Sahady hadn't performed 10 municipal audits in the last 3 fiscal years, they, being the town, McGrail and perhaps other people, were going to a company called CBIZ, which is an enormous agency that does, audits on a national level. But the math there doesn't math either, because if you're out there saying how great they are, and then you're out there giving them a very narrow reason as to why you're rejecting and moving them away in the middle of an audit process, it leads people to wonder, why would that be? And I'm sure there are reasons that we don't yet know the reasons why, and we should probably find out, because we're now almost a year out from the end of the last fiscal year and the audit starting. Haig and Sahady was talked about glowingly by former town manager McGrail. And I have spoken to the DOR myself, and they have said unequivocally that to perform 10 municipal audits a year is only something that the very largest of large firms can do because of the bandwidth and the time that it takes you to perform these types of audits.
The staff.
Right. And so Haig and Sahady also was a firm that used to do engagement audits for the town of Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Haig and Sahady terminated that agreement because they lost faith and confidence in Woonsocket's officials for matters of being ethical and honest. I'm not saying that was the reason here, but I'm saying it's the same firm. They kicked Woonsocket to the curb. Now you have an issue of all the litany of issues that we now know, that we've been talking about for a while, that now the town has seen, now the Department of Revenue has seen, the Division of Local Services has seen, pretty much everybody now has seen it. And you still have this large CBIZ firm doing an audit, and we haven't yet completed it yet, and we're almost a year away. So the bandwidth argument kind of goes out the window, because if they were doing it, surely they would have had it done months ago. And what is the reason for the delay? What are we going to see in this fiscal year 25 audit that may set us back even further next year? We have a structural deficit that we've uncovered that was $3.5 million that was hidden in the budget book that interim manager Perkins received from Jay and from Mark and other people, and they said, hey, take the budget book, get it to town meeting. It's all good. Don't worry about it. And it only took him 5 seconds to figure out, and maybe kind of looking at things that we had done to say, oh, that's why it's in the shredder. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, town manager Perkins has said multiple occasions, like, I'm not signing my name to something I haven't vetted. And I believe he said it was a seemingly innocuous comment that you made at the joint finance committee, select board, and school committee meeting that we had at Nichols Middle School a few months back, that you had said, well, it's your budget now.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's not my budget. And it's like, well, it is by the mere, while you didn't create it, you're now sitting in the big chair and you've got the ball.
Right.
Like, it was handed off to you. So, and that gave him pause. It was like, well, I'm not signing off on this. Let me start going through. And it didn't take him long to realize, Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah.
And it literally was a Houston, we have a problem moment that he discovered. Hence why we're here in this position now. But yeah, I mean, it's like the whole thing. I remember vividly Hagen Sahadi, like, oh, they're the gold standard. They're fantastic.
Right.
Only to find out, like, we issued an RFP and they didn't qualify. So we're moving forward with a different firm. And I mean, that'd be tantamount to you coming up to me and saying, hey, Matt, like, I see you got a Ford F-150. How do you like, I'm thinking about buying one. How do you like that truck? Oh, it's the best truck I've ever had. You know, it's fantastic. It's just, it's got all the bells and whistles. It's just, I love the truck. And you're like, oh, okay. And then Friday, you see me driving a Chevy Silverado. Right. You know, like, hey, what happened? Oh, Ford. It's not Silverado.
Yeah.
You know, like, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
You know, like, you'd be like, geez, I just went and put a down payment on a new F-150, and now you're driving a Silverado, and you're saying on Monday it was great. On Friday you're saying it's trash. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And that's on a pickup truck. What about like auditing firms that are there to ensure that the town is utilizing best financial practices, that what the town is reporting is actually fact?
Yep.
Again, I don't know. This is just me surmising, but it could have been a situation where Haig Sahadi had a Joe Perkins moment where they said, I'm not signing my name to something.
Right.
You know, and in those cases, separate from a forensic audit, where basically in a forensic audit, they say, step away from your keyboard, okay? Move yourself away from the filing cabinet. We're going to go through everything. Whereas the standard audits, they're at the mercy of what you're providing them.
Right.
Maybe it was a situation where they weren't getting enough information and they're saying, hey, we need more information. If you want us to sign off on this and say that everything looks good, then we're going to need more information. I don't know. We've been stonewalled when it's come to information requests.
Oh yeah.
You know, on many, many occasions.
Yep.
I don't think it would be a stretch to assume that maybe that same tactic was employed with Hagen Sahadi. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I'm just surmising, but it really defies logic why we would have this firm that was, as you said, lauded. They were the gold standard. They were this, that, and the other thing. And only to, we're not going with them anymore. Like, what?
Yeah.
Really, real head scratcher. So I don't know.
All right, so let's jump into town meeting. So just at a very quick high level for folks that may or may not know, the main town meeting is set for Monday, June the 1st at 7 p.m. at the high school. Sorry about that. I thought I had my phone on vibrate, but it's not. That was delayed to accommodate having to correct McGrail's failed in the budget book. A recap on that was Mark Germain's run select board who allowed McGrail to cut and run, and that left the town behind the 8 ball. With now we're looking at a June meeting as opposed to we should have had the meeting, a month ago, generally.
April 27th.
Right.
Yep.
So that's the town meeting, and then there's a special town meeting that didn't quite make the newspaper cut, so we have to move that. I think it was to the 17th of June. Is that the special town meeting? I think that was what they said. Yeah. So there's going to be two meetings. There's the standard town meeting, which is June 1st, and then the special town meeting, which will be June, I think 17th, I believe. But we'll just check that just to make sure. Let's go into the South Middleborough Waterworks project. And I know you had some things that you wanted to talk about. So
one thing before we move on, like you had just mentioned about former selectman Mark Germain, under his leadership, the select board allowing Jay McGrail to leave early. I remember hearing Mark Germain talk about the town meeting, annual town meeting, as Jay's Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's Jay's Super Bowl.
Right.
And, only to have him depart well before. And it seems specious to me why that would be the case. Like, yeah. I think Jay knew there were major problems.
You think?
And wanted to get out of Dodge as soon as he could.
I agree.
And not have to face the music.
Yeah.
Because, but beyond that there was a clause in his contract if he gave notice that it was a 4-month notice.
4 months.
And if this was July, and say like, hey, look, I'm due to start my job in Harwich on, September 1st or whenever, when was it? August, September, October. All right. So November 1st, excuse me, if I'm doing simple math, make sure I do my simple math right. Sorry, I have to use my fingers. But, it's like if this was July and he was set to start in Harwich on November 1st, and he came and said, hey, look, I know contractually I'm obligated to be here through until November 1st, but we're kind of in the doldrums of the fiscal year. There's really not a whole lot. That's why the select board and the FinCom, they go to a compressed schedule, if you will, as far as meetings, because there's not a whole lot. It's a quiet time.
Yeah.
And if it was that time of year and it said like, can you let me out early? And they said, yeah, go ahead. He wants to go on vacation. He wants to, do whatever before he starts up his new gig. Fine. But at the most critical juncture, like town meeting is kind of the culmination.
It is.
Of, like
everything
as it pertains to the town. And without batting an eye, oh yeah, go ahead. Who am I? It's like, why do we have a contract then?
Right.
Like, what's the point? Like,
right.
why have that clause in there if you're just going to arbitrarily,
yeah.
Throw it out and throw all caution at the wind?
Yeah.
And huge issue with that. Like, made no sense. And then, on top of it, as a concession, 10 hours a week of pro bono work Jay was going to give to Joe Perkins. Yeah, I think it was amounted to like one phone call and a text message.
Yeah.
I don't believe that Jay's communicated with Joe since.
Yeah.
So, just poor decision making, poor leadership, and suffice to say, I'm glad that Mark's not at the helm anymore.
I am too.
Because that's just but one example.
Yep.
There's other gross examples that we've identified many, many times, but yeah.
So, South Middleborough water treatment.
Yeah. So we, at the June 1st annual town meeting, there's 3 warrant articles 24, 25, and 26 that directly relate to proposed project down in South Middleborough, a treatment center, and then well development.
Yep.
That is to take place to support that treatment center in water treatment center or water treatment facility. And anyway, it's roughly, the estimated cost for these projects, totality is in the neighborhood of $60 million. Well, we had to go to extreme measures to balance this budget that was a $3.3 million deficit roughly.
Yep.
So we don't have $60 million sitting in the coffer somewhere that we're going to pay for that. So suffice to say, we're going to have to go out and secure financing for it by the issuance of bonds. And, I think we need to be aware that we're already in the throes of the East Grove treatment facility, which is to the tune of roughly $30 million.
Yep.
That we had to go out and secure financing for that as well.
Yep.
So now you're going to potentially add in another $60 million.
Yep.
$60 million that we don't have. I don't know. I'm really concerned how we're going to get there, how we're going to secure this funding.
Yep.
And, given the current financial state here, I think it's wildly undetermined what our bond rating is going to be.
Yep.
I mean, we're, as you had previously stated, we're at AA bond rating. Well, first thing, we were at AA bond rating under Bob Nunes before Jay McGrail got here. Why Jay got a stipend to maintain AA bond rating is kind of concerning to me. I don't know if that means we were closer to being downgraded than we were to upgraded, but he wasn't the reason why we were at AA bond rating. But I can safely say that he's the reason why we might be on the verge of being downgraded. Yep. I don't know that, but if I were a credit agency, I would be giving a long, hard look at Middleborough and what its current bond rating is. Sure. And that's going to, depending on what that bond rating is, it's going to directly impact those rates when we go out to the market to issue bonds.
Right.
So $60 million is what we need. The true total cost after interest and everything could far exceed that. So, and again, water is a staple. We need water. However, we need to have a clear path forward, how we're going to secure the money to facilitate this, but also, too, it brings into question these intermunicipal agreements or IMAs that we have. We currently have one with Bridgewater. I believe we also have one with Rochester for Old Rochester Regional. We have a water ban in effect, and I know that's through the state. It's not locally. But, I mean, last year we had turned East Grove Street on because the water was drying up. And Mike Bumpus, the water superintendent, made the decision to get East Grove back online, much to the chagrin of a lot of people in town and concern of many other people in town. So I think, it's like we've got water going out, but now we're trying to, start projects to bring more water in. I think we need to really take a long, hard look at that precious resource, how we can prudently dispense of it, how to maintain it, and if these projects are necessary, how to fund them appropriately, because it just doesn't go away. I know that there's some, like on the East Grove, there is some loan forgiveness. There's a portion of it. There's 0% financing, I believe, is for part of it, that's fine. So what, $30 million, it's $30 million or maybe $27 million, whatever the case is at the end of the day after the forgiveness in 0%. So while that's good, what if we don't qualify for that, for this project?
Right.
Like, what is the total cost going to look like? And are we going to continue down this path of, well, we're paying a premium, we're getting these water resources only to then sign these IMAs to where we're right back at square one. Well, we got to spend more money. We got to develop more wells. We got to develop more treatment centers. And, something I left out too was like the Vernon Street well. We just had that project in the last few years come online. We still had to spend, I want to say, I can't remember. I was trying to find it before I got here, but I want to say it was somewhere in the $3 to $6 million neighborhood. We had to upgrade the filtration on that brand new well because it didn't treat for PFAS. And I believe, I can't remember if it was iron or manganese. So they had to make improvements of the recently new well there. So, I mean, again, these are big number items
Yeah.
that we need to really take a long, hard look at to say, is it feasible?
Mm-hmm.
Is it necessary right now? Is this something we can hold off on? Like these are questions that need to be asked.
And
They need to be answered.
on the subject of the water treatment and how we fund it and the PFAS settlement, I want to touch on this. So, former town manager McGrail signed a structured settlement, which in essence signed away our rights to remunerate ourselves with future revenues related to the PFAS 3M multi-billion-dollar settlement agreement. I have asked that town council, KP Law, provide a written legal opinion regarding this matter. That was also sent from me to the partners of both KP Law and NSPR Law Services. That's the firm who authored the deal, who ironically appear to have an established business relationship with KP Law, which, in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, seems to be a strong conflict of interest. And the reason is municipal council, in this case KP Law, owes duty to the town. If KP Law advised the town while collaborating with or providing legal work that benefited a counterparty, in this case that would be NSPR, because they were the ones who would receive the rights and any future payments for PFAS, or if KP Law coordinated with outside counsel in a way that limited the town's claims, which based on this deal that it does, that creates either an actual conflict or the appearance of one. Now, neither of the firm's partners responded to my written request, which was made some time ago. So I have escalated this issue to both Chair Farley and Interim Town Manager Perkins for their assistance. Now, I believe they've asked Greg Corbo at KP Law to provide some sort of rationale or explanation into this, because my understanding is that as the town manager, whether it be Interim Manager Perkins or former manager McGrail or whomever sits in the big chair, to agree to a type of deal like this, they would either need to go get select board approval or receive town meeting approval. We know that this never came up at town meeting because we know. And no select board member that I've spoken with, and I've spoken to several, both past and former, or both current and former, have said, I've never seen this deal come across my desk. So it begs the question of, did Jay McGrail act unilaterally, ultra vires, to sign this deal? And the implications of it are, we are now faced with a $62 million warrant article that's going to be presented to the town, and somebody, whether it's at KP Law or somebody on the select board that was there at the time, or any former select board member, should come forward and explain, were you ever involved with a structured settlement agreement, yes or no? Did you sign it, yes or no? And can you confirm that one was never presented to you, yes or no? There are people that are going to come to town meeting that are going to be presented with a $62 million ask. Before those people are given the responsibility to say yes or no, they are owed an explanation by somebody. I don't care if it's KP Law telling former manager McGrail he needs to come back and answer for it, or former select board chair Mark Germain, he needs to answer for it, or interim town manager to shed some light on it, or somebody who's on the select board that might know something, because somebody somewhere knows something.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that former town manager McGrail signed this deal, and did he do it in a vacuum or not, did he even have the authority to do it or not, is one issue. The other issue is the $62 million ask could have probably been a lot lower if we had been receiving money from potential PFAS settlements that 3M negotiated with through this NSPR law firm. So I'm pretty aggravated about this because, one, I live in South Middleborough, so this directly affects me. But two, it goes back to that trust issue where you have somebody acting in the shadows, potentially signing this deal. We know he signed it because it's on the record. And neither law firm wanted to give me an explanation. So I thought the next best thing to do would be get the select board chair involved, get the interim town manager involved, and ask KP Law, who we pay a bunch of money to explain themselves. And they owe it to the people who are watching. They owe it to you, me, and everybody else. What's the deal?
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's no different. I know I've made reference to it before, but it's like
You gonna sing the song?
J.G. Wentworth. I have a structured settlement and I need cash now. Right? This is a J.G. Wentworth moment for Middleborough.
Yep.
You know, and again, these spurious funding sources and positions, you know, and justifications that we've had for spending under Jay McGrail, I think is directly tied into this. And what reasonable person would forego a big pile of money down the road for a small pile of money right now, unless you were in such a situation that it warranted it?
Yeah. Like maybe covering up a deficit.
Covering a deficit. And I mean, not for nothing. I mean, this is kind of an aside, but Jay moved around. So what does he care?
Yeah.
He doesn't live in town.
No.
He's jumped around to different jobs. Okay. By way as town manager. This is his third town manager, town administrator position. He worked in facilities management, all these different municipalities previously. So what does he care?
Yeah.
What it looks like to Middleborough 10 years from now, 15 years from now. He couldn't care less.
Right.
He's a Cape guy.
Right.
Like his heart is on the Cape.
Yeah.
So like he couldn't care less. So all right, I'll take this deal to cover up my fingerprints on this shoddy fiscal management that has occurred under my watch and under my direction.
Yep.
And let the chips fall where they may later on down the road. Well, the chips are already starting to fall.
Yep.
You know, we could have perhaps, I don't know what the full amount was. I think that's a big question too, because I mean, I believe it was like the town received approximately $1.2 million from this settlement. I would venture to say it's usually, I mean, these firms, they take the lion's share.
They do.
They're willing to wait.
They're willing to wait with the risk.
Right. So it's, you know, it's never in those who forfeit their settlements benefit. Short term, yes. Long term, absolutely not. These firms wouldn't be in existence if it was to their detriment. So it's absolutely disgusting. I mean, you know, we're talking tens of millions of dollars, and even if it was a quarter, like it's, you know,
money he signed away.
Right. It's money. And dare I say, I don't think he had a right to sign that away. I think we should, all our stakeholders here, more than he was, because like I said, he's not even a resident of Middleborough, nor was he ever.
Right.
So I think it would have been appropriate for those who have a vested interest, who are stakeholders in this town, to have a say like, no, absolutely not.
Yep.
Like, we'll wait.
Yep. And for the viewers out there, to find us on Facebook, the G.O.A.T News in Middleborough. We have written extensively on PFAS settlement, Ultraviras, former town manager McGrail, and you can find articles on our Facebook page about this. And the last thing before we move on with this is the reason why I've asked for details and the reason why I've asked Select Board Chair Farley and Interim Town Manager Perkins to help us with this information request is because if this is something that we can reverse through a legal challenge or litigation, it would be in the best interest of the town because we would be able to then potentially be back in the running for many, I would say millions, I don't know for sure, but I will say many millions, asterisk, of dollars that we would have otherwise had if not for this PFAS agreement that seemed to be inked in the dark.
Well, and that's the thing too, is just before we move on. So there is a number that is known right now.
Yeah, we got the 1.2.
They right. No, as I'm saying, like the total settlement as of now.
Oh, it's billions.
Right? Well, I'm saying what the town would have been slated to receive.
Yeah.
There was a set number.
Yep.
Because otherwise they wouldn't have come up with 1.2 million
Correct.
to offer us. So there's that. So there's that money that we know of.
Yep.
That was forfeited.
Yep.
But then on top of it, there could be future monies that come in addition to that we've signed our rights away to. So
that Jay McGrail signed our rights away to.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
All right. So forensic audit, the hill we are willing to die on. Mm-hmm. For the benefits of our viewers, I'm going to list just the things that we know about, which again leads us down to the road of why we need a forensic audit, because we don't know what we don't know yet. We have some strong suspicions. We have some where there's smoke, there's fire. But here are some of the things that we do know about. DPW $1 million turnback. We need more accounting clarity. We did receive some information from the town through KP Law that they sent us, but it doesn't indicate where the alleged $1 million in salary savings went back to the town. So we're still looking for that. We are looking into former town manager McGrail's credit card purchases. We are looking into former treasurer collector Michelle Fernandez, who we're not alleging did anything wrong, but apparently there was a credit card with her name stamped on it that was being used for purchases, and it was apparently still being used months after her departure, and I believe she left in August of last year. Also, that position was apparently not authorized to even have a town-issued credit card. Snow and ice funds. There was, for the last several fiscal years, I had the P&L statements that were directly provided to me that I downloaded from the Department of Revenue DLS services, where it indicates the cash was spent, $385,000 for the last several fiscal years, but no cash was actually appropriated in these accounts. So I guess the question would be, how do you spend money if you didn't appropriate it? There is the COA, Council of Aging, state grant fund of $100,000 per year for baby formula. The town used to receive reports on this fund, both incoming and outgoing. Apparently that has not been done in several years. I have asked Finance Director Sue Nickerson for this information. I asked her that months ago. It's been crickets. Haven't heard anything from her. Revenue, we don't know about the enterprise funds in wastewater, water, etc. So we can't ascertain the financial positions of those. And they were reported as a deficit in the past few fiscal years. And I've pointed that out at both select board meeting and finance committee meetings. We're also looking to confirm how many and all vehicles that were funded. I have specifically asked Sue Nickerson via email on May the 15th for all funding sources and invoices for all general purpose town-owned vehicles from fiscal year 22 to 26. The next item was the PFAS settlement we just got done discussing.
Before you move on, the funding sources for those general purpose vehicles, I remember we were in a finance committee meeting last year where Sue Nickerson was in attendance, and she was asked specifically by me, like, do we finance these vehicles? No, we don't. We're not carrying any loans on these vehicles.
Yep.
How they were paid for in cash.
Yep.
And that was it.
And I have an email that is from Sue Nickerson that I have provided to interim manager Perkins, where she indicated that there is a fund that is set up to fund DPW vehicles. And I asked her specifically if any vehicles had been purchased out of that fund. And she said they're primarily set up for the trucks, but she confirmed that no passenger type vehicles were purchased out of that fund.
Yep.
So,
and she stated that in that meeting as well, too.
She did.
Yeah.
There's tens of thousands of dollars in vacation buybacks, which may or may not be in line with contractual obligations. We don't know yet, so we're going to leave that as a placeholder. And then there are items of we don't know what we don't know yet. And again, just for purposes of giving the audience a little bit of insight onto the forensic audit, what a purpose-based town-only forensic audit review would do, or what it would look like. So you'd have a specifically scoped forensic engagement, town finances only. It would concentrate on the most material and high-risk areas over a 3-year look-back, very similar to what I've just outlined. It would reconcile Department of Revenue filings and the fiscal year 27 budget book to the general ledger and trial balance. It would produce a variance schedule identifying adjustments and preparers. It's important to know who did what and when. It would trace the $3.3 million shortfall through journal entries, year-end adjustments, and any off-ledger transactions. It would verify PFAS settlement accounting and any contingent liabilities, such as that sketchy-looking structured settlement with, I keep thinking of the guy with the horns and the song. Reconcile DPW turnbacks specific to payroll, specific to current and or former employees' contracts and invoices. It would audit snow and ice fund transactions for allowable uses and approvals. It would test vacation buyouts and separation payouts at the transaction level for approvals and pensionable pay treatment. It would review procurement and contracts for sole source awards, amendments, and related party transactions. It would test accounts payable and disbursements for duplicative or unauthorized payments. It would assess internal controls, segregation of duties, reconciliations, and timeliness of recording postings. It would practice lawful funding options. These are the things that we could do to pay for a forensic audit. There are several one-time legally permissible funding approaches under Massachusetts law. Each require the correct procedural steps and sign-offs. Potentially, we could use certified free cash and appropriate a one-time expenditure after the Division of Local Services certifies it. We could use stabilization fund withdrawals, which would be under Chapter 40, subsection 5B. That use must match the fund's purpose. General fund withdrawals typically require a 2/3 legislative vote, so this would probably be something that would be town meeting related. We could fund it by sale of surplus property, maybe some of those town-owned vehicles that we have on the books. That's Chapter 30B. You would declare non-essential take-home vehicles surplus and dispose of them by public auction or sealed bid. Proceeds are one-time and appropriate for a diagnostic engagement. We could reallocate non-essential capital or contingency items with proper votes and documentation. Recoveries from vendors or contract credits applied to one-time needs. We could also look at using ARPA or SLFRF funds. ARPA, for those of you who don't know, is the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. That's a major federal COVID-19 relief law. And that would be SLRF is the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds within ARPA that sent out $350 billion to state, local, territory, and tribal governments. We could break this down into phased payments so it would be a little easier to make for the town's expenditures in the contract to reduce upfront cash pressure. It's important to note that each option should be vetted by town council and the town accountant or finance director to ensure statutory compliance and to document the vote and rationale. So all that being said, we could do this funding it straight through the government, or we could put it to a town meeting vote, like on a warrant, and that could potentially be for fall town meeting. Obviously, we're beyond the time we could include it for spring. So for the purposes of expediency and urgency, my personal thought is letting the town know that this is what we want to do through a select board meeting. And then we also have this for folks that need to know now. It's on the finance committee agenda. We're going to be discussing it as a forensic audit. But we can also do this without having to wait for a town meeting. We want to be fully transparent and let the folks know. But because of the sense of urgency and the litany of items that we do know and that we don't know about, we would probably say we should get this done sooner rather than later. And the way to do that is we should fund it now and then get the ball rolling. Or maybe we can contract with a firm that says, hey, we'll do the work up front, you can pay us later, and then we could put it on a town warrant, so say for example. So that's forensic audit. What would you like to add or talk about with that?
I think what I've said previously sums it all up is we need to have a forensic audit. We need to know how we got here, why we got here, and those responsible for getting us here.
Perfect. Town manager search. So just so folks know, I've been appointed to the town manager search committee. So I appreciate the vote of confidence there and the recognition of the work that I've done, which has been in the best interest of the town, as we talked about at the outset, always has been, always will be. I'm looking forward to working with the rest of the committee on that as we handle the obvious need for selecting a town manager who, to your point, that person will need to restore trust and build upon that work that the interim town manager Perkins has already established. Just a couple things on this, and I want to get your thoughts on town manager search. What I will be looking for in candidates, and I've written about this on the GOAT so people can go back and get a little bit more detailed information. Prioritizing measurable leadership. We want to be able to see what town manager is doing, providing the show your work examples. I'm going to be looking for fiscal competence, ethical leadership, ethical stewardship, and transparency. These are factors that I personally believe, and having spoken to other people, believe that the prior town manager did not have. And there's a multitude of facts and evidence that strongly back up those feelings. On a personal note, some of those facts and evidence I had brought to the attention of former manager McGrail before most people, and I sought his clarification about it. Much like this podcast, he didn't like that. He didn't like being asked questions. He did not like this podcast getting off the ground. Neither did Mark Germain. We were told by current employees, what can we do to stop this podcast? That right there is a full stop that says there are some bad actors here, in my opinion. He didn't like the fact that I was bringing issues to him such as fire department overtime, such as the rampant spending, such as the exorbitant headcount increases. And I flat out told him these are not sustainable. So he and a few other people decided to concoct a phony scheme to discourage and obstruct me from pursuing the truth. And I will tell you this. I know who was in the room when certain actions took place. And I also know who was contacted. And there'll be more on that in the future. But on the subject of town manager search, did you have any final thoughts before we jump into the last part of the podcast?
So obviously we need a true leader. We don't need a leader in name only. We need someone who has demonstrated by past performance that they're able to come in and be fiscally disciplined, who's not going to be, as someone's once referred to Jay as the candy man, just handing out candy, by way of positions and pay raises like he did, because the chickens are going to come home to roost. What you do today, you'll have to sleep with tonight.
Yep.
And that was never taken into consideration. And again, this is why we find ourselves in the position that we find ourselves in. Joe Perkins, I mean, dare I say, there's an example of true leadership. He's had to come in and make the hard decisions. In fact, it's impressive to me the fact that he's the interim. He's not trying to ingratiate himself with the select board or with anybody else in town and say like, hey, I'd really like to have that interim removed and replaced with permanent town manager.
Yep.
He's unable to, and even if he was able to, I don't think he'd want to. But nonetheless, he's come in and he's made the necessary adjustments in order to right this ship. But with that, I think it needs to be emphasized that he's made the necessary adjustments just for FY27. This doesn't get us out of the woods for FY28 and beyond.
Nope.
this merely gets us to town meeting
Yep.
and to have a balanced budget just for this one fiscal year.
Yep.
There's a lot in the coming years that has to be addressed.
Yep.
So make no mistake, we're going to need somebody who's up to the task and capable of getting us back on sound financial footing,
Yep.
much like former town manager Bob Nunes had us
Yep.
on. So, and it's not going to be easy, and it's certainly not going to be painless.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm looking for. Is I'm not looking for somebody who's got a nice smile or can,
Glad hand.
glad hand or BS with the best of them.
Yeah.
Because I think we've been down that road and
Yeah.
it didn't serve us well at all.
No.
So I think we need somebody who knows what the job is, what it entails, and how to get us into a sound financial position moving forward.
Yeah.
Somebody with integrity, somebody with leadership. And that's what I'm looking for in a town manager. Tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. So
Good stuff. So on the next episode,
before we get to that, can
Yeah.
I just touch upon real quick?
Yeah.
I wanted to just quickly discuss the police department layoffs.
oh yes,
And for those of you who don't know, part of balancing this budget required, like we all know there were cuts, but specifically for the police department, it tantamounted to 4 police officers who were set to be laid off or designated to be laid off. From talking to Police Chief Ferreira, he brought it to my attention that we're going to be, well, when I say we collectively, but the police department's going to be losing 4 positions. Well, they already have 1 vacancy. Someone who, a police officer who moved out of state, who resigned. But they're also slated to lose 3 more, 2 by way of retirement and another one who's going to resign. I believe he's going into a different career path. So he'll be vacating. So, Chief Ferreira, he's like, I lose these 4 guys now. I'm already down 1, but now I'm going to lose 4 more. And then only in a few months down the road, I'm going to lose 3 more. So now he's going to be down 8. And that's going to really have a critical impact on public safety in town.
Yeah.
So he's trying to advocate to not lose those 4 officers by way of layoff, but just not backfill those, the current vacancy and the 3 soon to be vacant positions, which I think is a sound and solid plan.
yeah, sure.
It's number one. I mean, let's say we lay these guys off, then we incur the 3 other layoffs. It's going to be a hard sell to get the funding to justify bringing on just 1 police officer, let alone 4.
Yeah.
But let's just say that's the case. Well, if it goes off the civil service list, he's got to hire, get new hires for those positions. It comes at a significant cost. To run, recruit through the academy runs in the ballpark of like $85,000. And that's about over the course of 6 months. So there's the money aspect. There's also the time aspect.
Right.
But make no mistake, even after those 6 months are said and done, it's not like Chief Ferreira hands him the keys to a cruiser and says, okay, hey,
Yeah.
I want you to go, patrol this sector. You're hitting the ground running. No, like you're basically trained. Yeah. There's field training that takes place where he has to be under the instruction of a senior, a field training officer. Sure. So that's an additional cost because now it's like, you're adding another body that's not able to work independently as of yet. Yep. And so there's, again, another significant financial cost, also a timeliness cost. Mm-hmm. But then there's another variable that you can't really quantify, and that's the person themselves. I've talked to Chief Ferreira about these 4 that are slated to be laid off. He said they're great officers. He'd hire them back in a heartbeat. They're known entities. Yeah. It's not like they're not worth their salt. And he's like, hey, good riddance of bad trash. Like, I couldn't care less. Yeah. It's the exact opposite. They're good officers. They're young. They're trained. They're competent in what they're doing. Mm-hmm. and it's going to be a significant loss to the department. But now, if you go that other route, where now we hire somebody, now we're bringing in an unknown entity.
Yep.
We might bring in somebody that is a bad apple.
Yeah.
They lack integrity. They lack honesty. You know, and how do you quantify that? That's a significant cost. Yeah. And now you're right back at the drawing, or you get a lateral transfer. Yeah. You get an officer who's a bad apple in another department. He slides in over here. Well, now one department just got rid of their problem and made it ours. So I'm strongly advocating that we do whatever we can to maintain these 4 positions. Let's not take a cleaver to the police department. Let's maintain those 4 positions. And when those 3 others are vacated, we just don't backfill them. I think that would be, the only question would be is how to fund that until those vacancies come up.
Yep.
But again, I mean, I think it would be money well spent if we really took a hard look at how to maintain those positions, keep these guys that are currently on the force. And I mean, again, even if Chief Ferreira doesn't backfill those positions, I mean, he's gonna be operating at a disadvantage. And I mean, it's like, I look at it too, it's like the fire department, because we got wrangled in to the SAFER grant. We couldn't lay any firefighters off because we would have to remunerate the federal government for any monies that we received by way of the SAFER grant. Yeah. So, I mean, I think there was like 4 civilian dispatchers, but no firefighters. I mean, if this is to go this way, where we lay these 4 off and then we lose the 3 others in addition to the one already vacant position, we will be the only town in the Commonwealth that has more firefighters than police officers when that the fire department doesn't run an ambulance. There's other fire departments that, they have more firefighters because they're also running the ambulance service. Right. They have a town-owned ambulance. We don't. This would be the only town in the Commonwealth that had more firefighters than police officers that doesn't run an ambulance service.
That's wild.
Yeah, and I don't think it's good first of all, I don't think it's right on principle, but more so, I don't think it's right, prudent, or appropriate from a public safety standpoint. Mm-hmm. It's like I've often said, like, if you look at a map of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Middleborough I know Boston's the hub, well, Middleborough's a mini hub. Mm-hmm. You see a lot of traffic just by way of drugs that pass through Middleborough.
That's why there's a barracks here for the state police.
Yeah, I mean, you've got New Bedford, Fall River, Providence to the south. You've got Brockton, Boston to the north. Mm-hmm. And centrally located is Middleborough. Yep. So there's a lot of drugs that pass through. Yeah, Plymouth too. So I mean, there's a lot of drugs that pass through, and there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make the headlines.
Yeah,
there's a lot of arrests that are made. There's a lot of drug interdiction that happens. And, I just think it would be a monumental mistake if just, for the sake of, trying to get to the finish line with balancing this budget, that we don't take a hard look and say, hey, is this something we want to do? While it satisfies this, it really hamstrings us on this side. And I think public safety, like, at the end of the day, we need that. 2026 is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The stuff that goes on now, like, just turn on the news, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's just, it's wild times we live in. Cutting your police force at to a critical level, not advisable, in my opinion.
All right. Well, good. Thanks for that. All right. So for the next episode, we're going to have a very special guest here on our podcast, and we're also going to recap the town meeting at that podcast. I really enjoy, as I know a lot of other people do, Diane Stewart does a fantastic job at town meeting. She is always in attendance in the audience, and she does a great recap on Facebook. Perhaps she would like to come in as well at some point. Maybe she can do her recap here. live on the podcast. We don't know. Haven't asked her yet. This is the first time I'm throwing it out there, so putting the cart before the horse maybe. But we got some really good stuff coming up. We'll have some more updates on situations as they develop. I will come back on and have updates on the town manager search. I think the last thing I wanted to mention on that was we have our first meeting coming up on June the 4th, and that's to reorganize, or I guess organize the committee, and then set a schedule of dates. So I'm looking forward to doing that and turning the page and helping Middleborough get back on the right track. So with that, we can wrap up. It's 1 o'clock. Thanks to the audience for reviewing, and thanks for your engagement. We really appreciate it, and see you next time.
Yeah, and just like I've said before, this is your town. You're already in the throes of taking it back, but keep the pedal to the metal. The election, that was great, but now the real hard work begins. We gotta stay the course, and we gotta make sure that we get this town back on the right track. So, thank you.
Thanks for joining. Take care.